Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. I guess it's a good morning and a good afternoon. I sure appreciate everyone taking time out of their busy days to join me today to learn everything about SIP trunking. So, welcome. For those of you new who don't know me, my name is Bre. I'm part of the team here at ClearlyIP. I'm in the role of CMO and I will be your presenter today. A little later on, Tony, our CEO, will be joining us. I always enjoy teaming up with Tony for these webinars as he likes to conduct the live demo and really show you how our technology works and showcase different features, and then we'll go into some Q&A. Right now, I have everyone muted, but feel free to post any questions at any time throughout the presentation in the webinar. So if you think of something, send it over and we'll make sure to get to it towards the end of our presentation and answer any specific feature or functionality questions you might have. We're also recording this webinar for your review later. I anticipate today's webinar will take probably around 30 to 45 minutes with the live demo and Q&A at the end. So it's really a deep dive into all things SIP trunking. Our SIP trunking 101 webinar from 2021 is actually our most popular and watched video on all our social channels. So we do try to do SIP trunking events as new things are happening in the SIP trunking world. There's been lots of new requirements and technological advancements in connection with SIP trunking really in the last 12 months. So there's new requirements and certainly some new considerations when you're transitioning a business to SIP trunking, or if you're going to consider changing SIP trunking providers. So we have a lot to cover today. We're going to discuss the impact of SIP trunking on existing phone systems and really the end of an era, the end of POTS lines, traditional phone lines. We're going to talk about the costs and some return on investment, what the ROI is from moving from traditional phone lines to SIP trunking. And then we're going to go into how to set up your SIP trunking for your business, the questions you need to ask vendors when you're looking for the right SIP trunking provider. And also, we're going to discuss enhanced 911 services and all the telecom laws around 911 these days that everyone really needs to know. And then we'll go into some stir shaken stuff. That's what everybody's talking about in the SIP trunking world, the stir shaken and preventing spam and robocalls, and along with an introduction to our free attestation call and check service. And lastly, we're going to talk a little bit about application to person messaging, business messaging. So let's get started. I'm going to first give you a little bit of an introduction to ClearlyIP. I know we have a lot of new people here today, and I want to make a proper introduction to our company. So ClearlyIP, we specialize in business telecom, specifically cloud solutions and unified communications as a service. We consist of a team of experts with a combined 300 plus years experience in building some of the largest telecom applications in the world. And our team has been very closely associated with the free PBX open source community. As members of our founding partners, we're actually part of the original collaborators of free PBX. We have offices located in Canada and the US, Wisconsin and Montreal, and staff located around the globe. And our team really does include a bunch of telecom nerds that just love, eat, breathe, sleep telecom. And I like to think we are, you know, known leaders. We've got a good reputation in the industry, selling, developing, and pioneering new technologies that we bring to the business telecom marketplace. And we support end customers and a partner channel and solutions designed for end users with small, medium businesses, or even enterprise global companies worldwide that are really looking to take advantage of unified communications. So let's dive into SIP trunking. What is SIP trunking? I'm going to start with a brief explanation so everyone has a better understanding. SIP stands for Session Initiation Protocol. So SIP trunking is a method of sending voice and other unified communication services over the internet. It works with an IP-enabled PBX, which stands for Private Branch Exchange. So SIP trunking is replacing traditional phone lines or pure IT1s, and businesses are making that move from traditional phone lines to SIP trunking for the many, many benefits. So before SIP became popular and reliable method of transmitting voice signals, telephone calls were primarily carried over the PSTN, the public switch telephone network. The PSTN is the network of all the copper phone lines that we traditionally associate with the telephone. So the PSTN is a circuit switch network which requires a physical connection between 2 points to complete a call, whereas SIP trunks are virtual phone lines that enable users to make and receive phone calls over the internet versus over copper lines to really anyone in the world with a phone number. SIP trunks utilize a packet switch network in which voice calls are broken down into digital packets and sent across a network to the final destination. Pretty cool. Okay, now that you understand what SIP is and SIP trunks, let's talk about SIP channels or call paths. So each SIP trunk supports SIP channels. A SIP channel is equivalent to one incoming or outgoing call, and a SIP trunk can hold an unlimited number of channels. So users only really need one SIP trunk, no matter how many concurrent calls they expect. The number of channels required depends on how many calls the business is going to make at any one time. We get asked, what is the difference between SIP and VoIP? VoIP is the protocol that allows voice signals to travel over data lines. So while all SIP is VoIP, not all VoIP is SIP. So why SIP? Well, the old-fashioned PSTN, public switch telephone network with copper lines, is very quickly becoming a thing of the past. Today's telephony is moving away from traditional phone line and PSTN connections and into the world of flexible and modern SIP trunking. We actually published a blog last year in March titled, Is the End of an Era? The End of POT Services. Is Your Business Prepared? To really educate everyone on what's going on in the SIP trunking and traditional phone line world and what the FCC is up to. So the FCC reports that the number of traditional POTS lines in the United States actually declined from 122 million in 2010 to 41 million in 2019. And several of the larger carriers and telcos are already on a path to completely drop POTS lines within the next couple of years. And unfortunately, rates for remaining POTS lines are actually rising as providers are forced to support their remaining POTS infrastructure for a drastically smaller pool of customers. According to the Bureau of Labor, POTS charge rates actually increased from 36% from 2010 to 2021, even as mobile phone rates have declined. So major telecom providers have already started phasing out POTS lines, while the USA FCC has issued Order 10-72A1, which mandates that all POTS lines in the United States be replaced with an alternative service, such as fiber or wireless connections by August 2nd of last year. So August 2nd, 2022. The FCC will allow carriers to stop selling copper phone lines, which means fire and security systems are going to need to migrate. So it's not really a matter of if, it's really a matter of when you'll make that move to SIP trunks. So as someone that pretty much was born into the telecommunications industry, I was utterly flabbergasted when I heard of the final D-Day for the end of the plain old telephony service, aka POTS in the United States. I've been selling POTS services for well over 20 years for businesses to use for various devices. So I'm keenly aware of all the businesses that are still using POTS lines to support fax, alarms, point of sale, and other vital services that stay connected and maintained on a POTS line. So they're all going to have a rude awakening when they need to make some changes quickly. I'd like to move into a return on investment. I know this is an important conversation to have because there typically is line saving costs when you move from traditional phone lines to SIP trunking. So I'm going to give you an example here. And cost savings and improved technology really is always a top priority for businesses. So we'll start with the line savings, and then I'm going to go into the benefits on the technology. So let's use a company example of 50 people, 50 extensions, 50 phones. And we know that traditionally that this size of customer would typically need maybe around a 10 channel or 15 channel partial pure IT1 service, which we'll use 10 for this example. Let's say they have 10 pure IT1 channels, which would allow 10 simultaneous calls in and out. And for most of the time, that business, let's say, will peak at 10 simultaneous calls. But there are times that they get busy and they get more than those 10 calls. And sadly, the 11th or the 12th call just simply won't get through. A 10 channel PRI typically can range anywhere from 500 to 1,000 per month, depending on the term. In Vancouver, where I'm from, a 10 channel PRI is usually around 650 a month for a 3-year contract. So let's take that 650 a month for 3 years. That equates to 7,800 a year, 23,400 over the 3-year term. Well, let's look at SIP trunks. A 3-year SIP trunk contract with us for 10 channels would be $17.99 a channel, or $179.99 a month, versus that 650 per month. And the beauty with SIP trunking is with our platform, even if you buy the 10 channels at the 179 a month, you can also pay per minute if you need to burst up for those peak times when you get more calls. So if an 11th or 12th call comes into your system, it will automatically burst up to accommodate. So you'll receive those additional calls above and beyond the 10. So let's say 11 channels at that 179.99 per month. And let's add in 5,000 minutes of bursting would be 5,000 minutes times 0.09 cents per minute would be another $45 per month. So you're looking at $179.99 plus $45, $225 a month for 10 SIP trunks with that bursting capability versus the 650 PRI per month. So that's a potential of $425 in savings per month. That's amazing. Look at it per year at 5,100 in savings per year and nearly 15,000 in savings over a 3-year term. So that typically gets customers excited when they see the cost savings and the fact that they're also getting all this new technology. So let's talk some more about the bursting. So with SIP trunks, you can burst up if at times you get more calls than normal. A lot of times people need to have more PRI lines, but it just isn't that flexible. The beautiful thing about SIP trunking is if you notice your call volume going up, then you can burst or even add another channel within seconds versus having to add a second PRI T1 trunk with more PRI channels. That would be at a substantial increased fixed cost. And you'd also need to take into consideration any hardware to accommodate that expansion. Plus, SIP will include most of your long distance within a large footprint in North America and super low rates for international calling. So you should see savings there as well on your long distance and international calling. So for those of us that grew up only having access to copper lines, this can really seem like magic. We have a really awesome formula here at ClearlyIP to help customers determine how many channels, aka lines, you'll need. So we're always here to help you figure this out. Give our sales team a call, give them an idea of what you currently have for traditional phone line services for your business, and then they'll come up with the perfect recipe of what you should be going with SIP trunking. Okay, another question I get asked, Bre, what's the difference between SIP and VoIP? So, although SIP and VoIP are often used interchangeably, they are not the same thing. So, VoIP stands for Voice over Internet Protocol. It's a broad term that covers any phone calls made over the internet. It includes a group of protocol technologies, of which SIP is an example. SIP is one of the specific protocols that enable VoIP. All SIP is voice, but not all VoIP is SIP. So SIP trunking, I'm hoping you're seeing here that's it's pretty amazing, but I do want to mention not all SIP trunking services are created equal. There are questions that you need to be asking when looking at a potential provider. I'd like to just give you some tips on this. For example, you need to ask your provider, what is their presence? What is their infrastructure? How many servers do they have? And where are they? Does the service have access to global phone numbers? Let's say you're expanding and you want phone numbers all over the world. You need to make sure that your provider can provide you with global business phone numbers if you need them. Another really important question is, how long will the porting process take if you want to keep all of your existing numbers? So what this means is, how long is it going to take for them to port your business phone numbers from your existing provider, your losing carrier, to your new SIP trunking provider? And you want to ask, what are the costs associated with porting? Another question is, are they fully compliant with enhanced 911 integration? I'm going to go into this a little bit more, but that is a very important question. You need to ask your SIP trunking provider, are they compliant with all the new enhanced 911 integration? What service and support do they include? Is there a dedicated admin portal so you can make your own changes on demand? And also, maybe ask for a trial of the service. I know we do that here at Clearly IP. Make a decision based on your experience. Verify that you can try it out. Check the support on the services, the call quality, and the ease of firing up a SIP trunk for you. So those are really important considerations that should be clarified before you sign up for services. So above and beyond the benefits we've already touched on, let's move to the why you should be utilizing SIP trunking within your businesses. We all now understand that SIP trunks are telephone line trunks that are delivered over an IP network using the SIP protocol, and that using this method, telecom providers can connect multiple channels to a customer system. DIDs, which are direct phone numbers, can be linked to the same SIP trunk. And of course, your numbers can be ported into your SIP trunk too. SIP trunks offer a range of really unique benefits over PSTN based solutions, including lowered costs for monthly line rental, thanks to fewer lines needing to be installed at your office and less hardware. Lower call charges, thanks to the competition among SIP trunking providers. Some SIP trunks even offer unlimited call volume, improved customer service offered through more geographical and international numbers. Businesses can easily and efficiently add numbers to their SIP solutions and terminate them as well if you need to. Since customers can contact companies with greater ease, this can actually mean that sales increase too. SIP trunks aren't bound to a location. So this means you can move offices without having to change your numbers. You can eliminate VoIP gateways as all phone calls arrive via IP. This means no extra conversion and can maximize quality too. Modern IP PBXs and unified communication solutions offer customers enhanced productivity, better sales, improved mobility, and connecting your IP PBX to SIP trunking solution is far easier than trying to connect traditional PSTN lines. It's easier to include additional channels on your SIP trunk to handle increased calls compared to increasing hard lines. And with SIP trunks, you really can find the perfect number of channels for your unique requirements. On the other hand, with ISDN and traditional phone lines, you'd have to choose a specific number of lines, and those were fixed. And lastly, unlimited access to global phone numbers. I talked about this already. This is so important for your business and team. So if you have offices or personnel all over the world, or you want to market with a local phone number to a specific area or region, you will have access to phone numbers really any place, anywhere. Okay, so let's move into enhanced 911, as this is a super important component and consideration of SIP trunking. So enhanced 911, or E911, is a system used in North America to automatically provide the caller's location to 911 dispatchers. So 911 is the universal emergency telephone number in which callers dial in the event of emergency and where locations need to be communicated. There are currently 3 laws in effect in the United States in connection with 911. that every customer, business, our partners all need to know. We've actually had several events on each of these laws. So I'm hoping some of you returning to this webinar today are already familiar with Carey's Law and Ray Baum Act. However, some of you might not be as familiar with the newer Alyssa's Law. So I will cover all three. But bottom line, if you are a business telecom provider or a customer, you need to be compliant with these laws. These laws save people's lives. And although these laws are currently for new system installations, it really should and could be addressed for your existing phone system installations to ensure you can protect your people. So first up is Carey's Law, named after a Carrie Hunt whose estranged husband assaulted her at a hotel in Marshall, Texas. Sadly, her 9-year-old daughter was there and she attempted to call 911 four separate times from the hotel room phone. And because the phone system was set up requiring a 9 to be dialed to access an outside line before a call is made, all of her calls to 911 failed. And doctors actually testified that Carrie lived for some time after the assault, and had 911 been reached, she'd likely still be alive today. Ray Baum Act is named after a lawyer and congressman who championed this telecommunications policy through much of his career. It ensures that first responders have a correct location with the 911 call received. So, not just your building address, that really isn't sufficient. You need to put, ground floor, front corner office, or northeast office, second floor, and your building address. So when first responders arrive, they know exactly where to go. And lastly, Alyssa's Law, named after Alyssa Oladeff. She was a 14-year-old student at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. She was a victim on February 14, 2018, when a former student killed 17 people in a mass shooting. Alyssa's Law is a legislation to improve the response time of law enforcement during emergencies in schools. So it mandates that all public elementary and secondary school buildings be equipped with silent panic alarms that directly notify law enforcement. So as you can see, Alyssa's Law is the newest and quickly gaining momentum. It's passed in 3 states, Florida, New York, and New Jersey, and it's currently pending in 4 other states. And really having a panic button or a silent panic alarm solution is something that should be implemented really in any business that has multiple rooms. This is an example of dispatchable locations for the Ray-Baum Act. It's a floor plan example. As I mentioned, just having a main address, building address, for example, our headquarters 3255 West Highview Drive, is not sufficient. Clients need to set up that it actually tells where each extension is located. For example, my extension 201, Bre Fernie, is located in the northwest corner office on the ground floor. So if 911 is dialed and they rush to site, they know exactly where to find whoever called. And there's an example of our panic button. It's a very low cost solution that can be implemented on desks or walls or under desks if people are needing a quick panic button solution in their environment. Okay, let's move on to stir shaken. I'm going to speed things up here because we need to get to the live demo so you can see how Tony just fires up a SIP channel and gets SIP trunking working. But I do want to talk about stir shaken. It is the trending hot topic recently. There's been a lot of buzz in the United States telecom industry around the smackdown of robocalls by the FCC. We've been receiving just a ton of calls from partners, service providers, resellers, and even customers feeling really confused and looking for advice and guidance. So, Stir Shaken or Shaken Stir, it's a suite of protocols and procedures intended to combat caller ID spoofing on public telephone networks. So it's a framework of interconnected standards. STIR Shaken are acronyms. STIR stands for Secure Telephone Identity Revisited. Shaken stands for Signature Based Handling of Asserted Information Using Tokens. So what does this really mean? It means that originating Service providers managing customer calls are required to ensure that calls are assigned to prevent and reduce robocalls and caller ID spoofing. So, for our telecom resellers and partners here today, if you have qualified as originating service provider as an OSP, let's say you're reselling Clearly IP SIP trunking to your customers and charging, billing your end customers, technically you're an originating service provider and you're required to assign those calls. So you would need to go through the process of getting your own stir shaken certificate and start assigning customer calls. You'll need to get a US FCC 499A filer and OCN number, then work towards your stir shaken token and certificate. It's a lot of work. It's quite complicated, but it is certainly doable. Just remember, this means you're also now going to be required to be compliant on all telecom tax collection and remittance, which is another big scope of work to add to your plate. If you're an end customer with me today, concerned that your current provider isn't assigning your calls, there's an easy way to find out. You should simply call your provider and ask them, or you can use our attestation service and just test with your main phone number. It's a free call and test service to check. So all you have to do is dial the phone number, which is 920 666 1392, and it'll tell you if your call has been certified, what the attestation level is, and who is your originating service provider. So, for example, this morning I called from my personal cell phone and it confirmed back to me that the caller ID presented is, and then it read out my cell phone number. It told me that the verification had passed, that my call has an attestation level of A, which is good, and that the call was certified by Google Fi, who is my service provider on my personal mobile, and that the service provider code is 9698. So it's actually a really helpful service. I want to mention virtual faxing platforms because a lot of customers don't realize that virtual faxing and other fax offerings are part of a SIP trunking solution. So, for example, our Clearly IP SIP trunking platform offers a total virtual fax solution. We call it our SendFax 2 platform. I want to touch on it real quick because it's a great solution that most customers don't realize we offer as part of our enhanced trunking platform. You can enable and manage specific email addresses or domains to send faxes using our Send Fax services supports fax to email, email to fax to print. We offer high volume packages, low volume subscriptions. And the cool thing about our Send Fax platform is there's no per page, per user, or per group fees. So it's a really slick solution. So I'm getting to the end of my presentation here. We've addressed how SIP trunking can give you the power to really enhance your business experience, and that once you've chosen a provider, hopefully Clearly IP, you can choose a dedicated internet line for your SIP trunks. So SIP trunks simply go onto your in-place high speed. Since many firewalls can handle several WAN connections and internet lines are often low cost, a separate VoIP connection can be a great way to enhance the quality of your VoIP calls. This process can keep your voice traffic separated from your data traffic. However, the outcome of your choices will depend largely on the cost of your upgrades and your network infrastructure. We can certainly help you look at that and determine the best route. Remember, you can also upgrade your traditional phone systems, your PBXs, to an on-premise IP PBX if that's your preference. Unlike with PSTN lines, which are often connected to hardware-based PBX solutions, and IP PBX can offer you an easy to manage and flexible solution. So if you're not ready to go to the cloud or to a hosted platform, which typically includes SIP trunking for your connectivity, then why not consider upgrading your services to an on-premise IPBX, but still be able to leverage the benefits and flexibility and modern refinements that only IP telephony can bring. The last thing I'm going to talk about is 10DLC. So 10DLC applies to businesses using application to person business messaging. For example, a dentist office texting a patient an appointment reminder. This is considered business messaging of application to person. So 10DLC stands for 10-digit long code. It's the new standard for A2P, application to person messaging in the United States, which applies to all messaging over 10-digit geographic phone numbers. So your business may already be familiar with using long codes to send text messages to customers and the benefits that they provide, such as text enabling a customer service number. However, 10DLC is introducing a new component to any business who would like to send text messages to a customer in North America. So carriers are really now stepping in to regulate these messaging programs to better protect their subscribers, your customers, and eliminate the spam going to them. While the experience receiving for mobile users will still feel very much the same, the process for businesses to implement these programs is looking quite a bit different, and there's several things that you need to know. So 10DLC is intended to protect consumers from spam while ensuring that good actors have access to the resources they need to engage with their customers. So, as of May 2021, all major US wireless carriers had announced support for this new ecosystem. So, the new requirements come in two categories: brand and campaign registration and carrier surcharges. So, brand and campaign registration, customers generating long code A2P messages are now required to register both their business brand and messaging use case campaigns in a central repository. Then next, the carrier surcharges. These are wireless carrier imposed surcharges, sometimes referred to as the pass-through fees. They vary by carrier, message type, SMS or MMS, and in some cases also by the type of campaign. So I'm not going to go into this any further on this subject matter, just the importance that when considering SIP trunking and a partner in SIP for your business, be sure to confirm that they can offer support of 10 DLC and campaign registration, etc., if the business is doing application to person messaging. Okay, I think that's about enough of me talking. I'm going to turn things over to Tony and he'll show you just how easy SIP trunking can be. Hi, Tony. How are you today?
Bre, I'm pretty good.
Great.
Okay, let me get my screen share set up here. Okay, so I've got our cloud portal up here. Our cloud portal, customers can go to trunking.clearlyip.com. If you have service with us already, you have a login. If you don't have service, there's a create account page button there that you can create your account. And once your account gets created and you verify your email and different information, you can log in and you'll end up on our main dashboard here, just like what you see here. So this is our portal where you manage everything, where you buy all your services and manage everything, and you can view all your invoice history and your payment methods and open support tickets and open porting requests and all kinds of different information. So I'm not going to walk through this whole portal. We just want to walk through how fast it is to get SIP trunking set up with E911, and even messaging if you want to do any type of messaging for like free PBX-based systems where you have a direct integration into free PBX for text messaging. We simply come over to products and services and we go to locations. And it's going to list all my locations I have. So this is my test account that has all my training boxes for our, we do training classes a couple times a year for free PBX. And we can add a new location. A location is simply a PBX, a unique phone system. So we'll hit add a new location, and we want to add a new SIP trunk location. And we can pick between the two different types of call pass that Bre talked about. So we can either buy our subscription call pass where you pay by the call path and not the minute, or we can buy for $0 our pay per minute call path where you don't pay by the call path and you pay by the minute for every call. So for our example, I'm going to do our subscription call path. And then you get to pick a plan type. We either offer a month-to-month, a 12 or 36-month. So in my scenario, we're going to do a month-to-month call path or a plan. And we're going to say we want 2 simultaneous call paths. And we can see what the rate is for this pricing. The 2 call paths are $37.48 a month. We hit next. We give this a name, this location. So we'll call this our webinar. January webinar. location. And then we can do things like flip on international calling, or since we're only buying 2 call pass, if we need to burst beyond those 2, we need to make or receive more than 2 calls at a time occasionally, we can enable bursting where we just pay by the minute for any calls that go above the 2 call pass. So I'm going to leave both those off for now, and I'll show you how you can add them at any time later. And then we get a default caller ID. So in the event that your phone system sends us an invalid caller ID, we'll replace it with whatever you tell us down here. That way you're still stir shaking compliant and that we can still sign those calls for stir shaken. So I'll put ClearlyIP. And again, this default caller ID only gets used if what your PBX sends us is an invalid caller ID. Location address for taxation rating to know where to rate taxes in, because you might have multiple locations with the same billing address. So we'll hit next. Then we can start buying phone numbers. So I'm going to grab a number here from Appleton because that's where I'm based. And again, you can real-time find numbers in all kinds of different states and cities. We have coverage in about 10,000 rate centers, which is about 99% of the US, and also full coverage in Canada and even toll-free coverage. So we'll go ahead and pick 2 phone numbers that we want to add. We're going to go ahead and add emergency calling services. So click the box, and we're going to call this our name and description. It pulls it in from your location, so we'll just leave that alone. For the caller name, we're going to set it to be ClearlyIP. And the emergency caller ID we're going to use, and the callback number. So theoretically, you could have a different callback number than the caller ID you're sending. So if you wanted the callback to be a different phone number, you could change that here. So this 911 we're setting up, the first one is free on your trunking location with us. And then if you want additional locations, their MSRP on those are 50 cents a month for each additional location you need. That price goes down based on contracts. It gets down into, I think, the 30s, high 30 cents per location for additional 911 locations. So we're going to have the system verify that address, which is going to reach out and do what's called a geotagging on it and make sure it's a proper geotag for the 911 centers called the PSAPs. So it's verified that address and it gives us a next button. Normally, this is where you would add your credit card. We also can grant terms for larger enterprises or any government agencies. Otherwise, normally this is where you'd pick your credit card. I happen to have terms on my test account. So you would add your credit card here, agree to the terms of service, and we're done. So this is going to go through. It's going to provision into our SBCs this new location. It's going to secure these phone numbers and assign them to your account. It's going to set up all the 911 information and register that with the PSAPs through what's called the ALI database. And then it's going to generate the invoice. And if you're on a credit card, it would charge your credit card. And it's done now. So we can hit the close button. And we have a brand new location. And we can now go register our phone system to that location. So I'm going to grab a location that has some more information in it to show you guys. So I have a test box called Tony Test Box. And when we view that location, there's a whole bunch of information we can see about this location. So we can see the account number for this location, a name and description, and a tax address for tax rating. And you can edit this by hitting the little edit button. We can see some balances. So we can see we have a $100 monthly meter limit. So we're allowed to do $100 on that per minute rate. We've used 0 of it so far this month. International, we have $0 set right now. We can go change that. So we're not allowed to do any international. So in this location, we can see we have 1 North America domestic subscription call path. That's where you don't pay by the minute for normal business usage. So you're allowed 1 concurrent call in this scenario. So you bought 1 of the subscription call paths. And then we can enable international. So I do have it enabled with 3, but a $0 limit. We'll go fix that. So we're allowed to make 3 international calls at a time. And then we're doing bursting. So in the event that we've used up this 1 channel that we don't pay by the minute, we've enabled bursting with 7 additional call paths with a $100 a month limit. So once that $100 a month is met in a month, it's going to block all outbound calling until you either roll over your next month or you come increase that limit. And we can hit the pencil icon here and edit these. So we can hit adjust metered services. And we can say, yep, 3 international calls, but I want 5 metered. And I want a $5 a week international limit. And my monthly limit here, I only want it to be $50 for normal metered a month. So what this has done now, if we come up here and look at our balances, we'll see metered's been taken to 50, international 5. So this metered 50 is a monthly limit. International is a weekly limit, resets every Sunday. So if you're making outbound international calls and inside a single week you exceed $5, we're going to block all international calls until you either increase that limit or the week resets itself. So great fraud protection tools for you. And you can set alerts. So if I want to be alerted to this international threshold, I can hit the little bell icon. And under international, I can say every day, if I've exceeded more than 75% of my weekly balance, send me an email. And you could do the same for metered, and maybe you want that to be every hour, every 8 hours, or 12. You get to pick. And it will trigger you notifications. I'm going to set that one to never. We can see we're not currently registered. So I've got to go register my PBX, which I haven't done yet. We'll do that together. So we're not registered to any of our servers. We do have fax enabled. So we have one fax call path enabled for our send fax service that we bought. And you can edit and add more of those. If you want more voice calling subscriptions, same thing. We can edit this and hit change quantity. And we can buy, say, maybe we want 3 now instead of 1. And just go through the shopping cart. Agree to the terms, and now you have 3 concurrent calls where you're not paying by the minute for voice. So everything's just self-managed right from here. Failover. So in the event that we can't reach your PBX, you can set a failover number or another IP address. So I've got failover on unreachable to go to this phone number. So if an inbound call hits us and we try to send it to your PBX and get no response, we will then fail over to this phone number. You could also change that to fail over instead of to a phone number to a URI, and you could say SIP blah and then whatever your IP address or domain name of a second server is, and automatically fail over to a second server if you wanted to. So this failover is a global failover. It affects the whole location. You can also set failovers per phone number or per DID to different areas. That failover destination could be different per phone number. So the logic looks to see if there's a failover on the phone number, and if there is, it uses that. If there isn't, it looks to see if there's a location failover, and it uses that. There's a bunch of other settings we're not going to go through. We're going to run out of time otherwise, but there's a lot of self-management here. That default outbound caller ID, the stir shaken information, your SIP credentials here, which won't do you any good right now. They'll only work on my box. We can see all the phone numbers I've got bought and where they're routing to. All my different 911 locations are showing here. All my fax services are down here. So everything's self-managed. Now to go set up your PBX is really quick. If you're on a SIP-based PBX, you'd have to use this SIP username and password and go set up in your PBX. If you're on a free PBX-based system, we make it really easy. We have this token, this API token. So we're going to copy that token. We're going to go over to our free PBX system, and we have a module that you install. It's called the Clearly Trunking module. You can get that module from our knowledge base, so kb.clearlyip.com, under SIP trunking, configuring your trunks on your PBX. So we have documentation for all kinds of different PBXs and gateways. If we click on the free PBX one, this will step you through how to install the module. It's really simple. Once that module is installed, we literally just paste that API token in here and hit submit. And this is going to pair our free PBX system to this trunking location. A second here, there we go. So we can see what the location name is, what our default 911 location is. So in the event you send us invalid caller ID for 911, we'll fail back to this one called Appleton office. You set that in our portal here. Default 911, you just pick one of your locations as your default. And now we can tell it to automatically configure our trunks and routes for us. So if we click this little blue button, we pick which of these numbers we want as our default caller ID, hit save, and if we go look now, it automatically created trunks for us. So there's all the trunks to those 3 servers, or I'm sorry, 5 servers. And if we go look at outbound routes, it automatically created an emergency route, an outbound route, and an international route because we have international dialing enabled. So if we refresh this in free PBX by hitting the apply config, this will now force Astra's free PBX to reload all of its dial plan, and those trunks will be up and running. And you're able now to make outbound phone calls. And we'll actually see here in a second, these expires should show registration here once we're done reloading. Come on. So really quick, in a historic way, if you're using a free PX-based system and you had to go set up your trunks, you'd be creating all your trunks one at a time, taking a couple minutes a trunk, then you'd be creating all your outbound routes with all your dial rules. We automated all for you. So if we go look here now, there you go. We'll see we're registered to all 5 servers. And then if we go look if we go look at inbound routes, we don't have any inbound routing yet. So back in the Clearly Trunking module in free PBX, we go to number listing. It'll show us all the DIDs that you have purchased with us. And it says route 2 is missing, meaning those DIDs or phone numbers don't exist in free PBX. We can either manually go add those one at a time into free PBX, or we can hit this button and we'll add them all for us. And now if we go look at inbound routes, you'll see they're all here. By default, they route to this Clearly Trunking DID destination or DID verification system. And what that does is when you call that phone number, it plays back the number you dialed and the caller ID you called back from, back to you. So you can either edit each one of these routes and route it to wherever you want in your phone system, one at a time, or in the Clearly Trunking module, we make it even easier. Under the number listing, the route 2, you just click on it and pick where you want to route it to. So if I want it to go to extension 1000, done. This one I want to route to, do I have an IVR? No. We'll just pick voicemail. So it sees how quick it is to go set up all your routing. Same with SMS. We can link phone numbers to different users for SMS. I think these are already linked in the back end. We'll go see, yeah. So like this phone number, 334285, users 1001, 2, and 3 are allowed to send and receive messages from this phone number. So it's really quick to set up your SMS routing or linking your SMS to users. And then the emergency listing, this shows me all my dispatchable locations. And I can see them all here. And if I go under emergency device mappings, this is where I can map each user to a different location. So I'm not having to manage caller IDs anywhere. I'm just picking from a drop-down all my different 911 locations, and I'm just real-time mapping them to where they are. And then there's other stuff to deal with notifications when somebody calls 911. You can set up notifications, and those notifications can send SMS and to any phone number you want for SMS, cell phone, or any other number that's SMS capable. You can have it send an email alert. And you can also have it page a page group and announce who called 911 and drop you in that 911 call muted, and then you can unmute yourself and take part of that 911 call. So this stuff is very important for your Ray Bombs Act to be compliant. So all that's built right into our module. So at this point, Bre, I am done with the quick how fast it is to get a system up and running.
Great.
So we got some questions here. I'll start running through these. Does ClearlyIP offer any discounts to organizations that classify as a 401c? We do have different promos we run for nonprofits. Bre, those are still active, correct?
Yes, they're on our promotions page.
Yeah, so on our main website, we do have a promo for nonprofits. We give you 5 call pass for $50 a month. So it allows you to make and receive 5 calls at a time, no per minute rate, works out to $10 a channel, very cheap, very competitive, very aggressive for nonprofits. You can add additional channels at that same $10 a month. There is a form you have to fill out to submit for your nonprofit for us to go activate that on a location. But yes, we do offer a nonprofit program. If I sell PBX and trunks to my clients to systems I support for them, would I create a new location for each client or for each unique PBX as you mentioned. That depends on who's doing the billing. So if we're billing you, then you just create a separate location for each of those PBXs. If you want us billing the customer and you're part of our agent program where we bill the customer at MSRP and then we agent commission you a large commission every month, then there's another step you have to do before you add the location. Your sales team, our sales members could walk you through the agent model, but you basically create the customer first and then you assign that location to that new customer. And then we do all the billing to that customer. If I'm using another SIP provider today, what is the transition plan look for production environments to minimize downtime? Very simple. So we do this every day. We do large migrations. We just helped a partner move 400 locations over to us. So if you've got a lot of locations that you're looking to move all at once or in a short period of time, we'll work with you we basically provide a spreadsheet that you give us all the information and we create everything in the back end for you first ahead of time. And then you go get all your trunks added to your PBXs. And once they're added, submit the port request to us. And since all the numbers and everything are going to be pre-created, once the port comes through, they just start flowing through our trunks that you already have on their PBX. So we do a lot of the heavy lifting. Like I said, we get everything set up on the back end for you and then provide all the information for you to go register each of the PBXs and then just submit the port request. Port request take usually about 5 to 7 days. Our team's really aggressive and really quick at getting them through. We can get them even faster. I think Bre's got a case study coming out soon of a customer that 40 users had to bring up all new phone systems, ship them phones, port their numbers and cut them over because their old phone system crashed, and we did it in 2 business days. Shipped them brand new phones, all provisioned with a partner involved. The partner configured the whole phone system. We took care of all the porting. We got the numbers ported in 2 business days and had them up and running. Are there plans for the Clearly trunking module to support multiple locations? No, I mean, the trunking module links to one single location. There's too much related to tax purposes, taxing, free fix itself. You really can't link. You can't have one PBX have multiple registrations to the same IP address, meaning our trunking server has IP address X. You can't have the same PBX register multiple times to that because it wouldn't know what to match to. So there'd be no benefit to that. You wouldn't be able to do anything with that. Are you allowed to disclose the vendors of your SBCs? We don't get into that. It's all very customized by us. We've built this stuff before. I can tell you, we process some insane volume. We have contracts with some of the largest radio station groups in America. We can see in a 10-minute period of time, we can see 250,000 calls hit us that we can throttle and handle. So we won't get into vendors on SBCs. It's a lot of our own custom applications that we've written and a lot of custom stuff to it. It's not just some SBC like going and buying an Oracle SBC or anything. This is all home built from the ground up by our team of who's been doing this for 15 years. Okay. That seems all the questions, Bre.
Great. Thank you, everyone. We really appreciate your participation. Well, I guess we're nearly at the 1 hour mark. Thank you, Tony, for showing everyone how easy it is and fast and efficient to get going with SIP trunking. If anyone has any more questions, feel free to reach out to myself or Tony. We'll contact you with sales and get you going on potentially a trial and some pricing and SIP trunking configurations. Thank you again, Tony.
Hey, Bre, we have one quick question that just
Oh,
did come
sure.
in. How cumbersome is the porting process, and do the end customers have to sign everything for the partner? So all the porting is done right in our portal. So you come in, you can do a portability check first to make sure, put the list of phone numbers here, and we'll verify we can port them. And then you can submit a porting request right here, and everything's online. So you pick which location the port's for. You can override any information if in case the information is different for the customer's bill, for example, on what that losing carrier's address is. Provide local and toll-free numbers you want to port. Provide the existing provider information. Upload a copy of your most recent invoice. Give us who the authorized user is, and then you sign it digitally. So nothing to do here, just type in the signature and submit your request. If you're a partner involved, you can even then set your email address of who will communicate to the port information as it works through the porting process. and hit submit, and that will automatically create a backend ticket on our side, and it will kick off. We do a quick review, and then that gets submitted upstream into our porting vendor, and everything's pretty much automated after that. And the ticket that gets opened automatically will communicate the whole process as we get rejections, or if it gets approved and when it's approved for. All that's automated and put right into the ticket for you. Do you offer a web platform for extensions to be able to send and receive SMS messages? We don't in our platform, no. So we interconnect with PBX for that. So in the free PBX world, that's user control panel allows you to do all of that. Our mobile soft phone does have integration for it. So our mobile soft phone, we call Clearly Anywhere, is integrated into free PBX's messaging system, and it will get all your SMSs, let you send and receive your SMSs from free PBX. If you're on our Clearly Cloud system, we have a full web portal for our Clearly Cloud platform that does all of your messaging, not just SMS. It handles your private and public rooms and one-on-one chatting and everything. That's all built into our Clearly Cloud platform. And then we do have full API. So if you got some other PBX that you're working with, or you're building applications, we have full APIs on sending and receiving SMS and interacting with our SMS APIs. And same with faxing. Okay, Bre.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day, everyone. We'll see you hopefully at our next event next week, where we are providing a cloud telephony 101. So we'll get that webinar updated later today, and the recording from today's webinar we'll have live on our website and social media channels early next week. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Bye, Tony.
Bye.
Bye-bye.